Hi, my name is Brian Russo. I'm a humanities teacher and I teach just north of Boston. Today, I'm excited to be presenting on the 7 keys to effective feedback formulated by Grant Wiggins. If you choose not to listen to the audio, all the relevant information can be found in the text of this presentation. Everyone agrees, feedback is important. Wiggins comments that both common sense and research make it clear. Formative assessment, consisting of lots of feedback and opportunities to use that feedback, enhances performance and achievement. John Hattie's decades of research revealed that feedback was among the most powerful influences on achievement, yet even he surprisingly struggled to understand the concept. So there's a disconnect here. So what is feedback? In an educational context, feedback is information about how we are doing in our efforts to reach a goal. Example, I hit a tennis ball with the goal of keeping it in the court and scoring a point, and I see where the ball lands, in, which is the desired result, or out, which is not. So good feedback might be a coach saying, your shot was out of bounds because you turned your left foot too far out, which caused the ball to go past the line. This is an example of descriptive feedback because it indicates what students can currently do and what they need to do to achieve a target. The need part would be covered in the guidance, so that would be telling the student how they could improve based on their feedback. Here are some examples of feedback. A friend tells me, when you put it that way and speak in that softer tone of voice, it makes me feel better. Or a baseball coach telling me, each time you swung and missed, you raised your head as you swung, so you didn't really have your eye on the ball. On the one you hit hard, you kept your head down and saw the ball. So what we can see with these examples is that feedback is not advice or evaluation. Wiggins states, whether the feedback was in the observable effects or from other people, in every case the information received was not advice, nor was the performance evaluated. No one told me as a performer what to do differently or how good or bad my results were. Consider these statements. You need more examples in your report. You might want to use a lighter baseball bat. You should have included some essential questions in your unit plan. Is this feedback or advice? These are all pieces of advice. Giving advice but not explaining why a student needs it is not helpful and leaves the student wondering why the advice is being suggested. In a similar vein, when we consider feedback versus evaluation in grades, we can consider the following statements. Good work, weak paper. You got a C on your presentation. I'm so pleased by your poster. These comments make a value judgment. They rate, evaluate, praise, or criticize what was done. There is little or no feedback here, no actionable information about what occurred. As performers, we only know that someone else placed a high or low value on what we did. So now let's move on to the 7 tips for good feedback, starting with number 1, goal referenced, which is all about aligning your feedback with the desired results of the assessment. Effective feedback requires that a person has a goal, takes actions to achieve the goal, and receives goal-related information about his or her actions. So, for example, I hit the tennis ball to score a point, or I wrote a story to engage the reader with vivid language. In both cases, there are specific goal reference criteria for the student to aim for. The key criteria for making information into feedback is if the information tells a student whether or not he or she is on track or needs to change course to achieve a desired result. Number 2, tangible and transparent. Are the results tangible? Are the goals and feedback clear? Tangible results are an important component to meaningful feedback. For example, the desired result of people laughing at a joke is a tangible response that demonstrates the joke's effectiveness. Also, as little kids, we learn how saying certain words such as water or fruit, which seem to magically yield food and drink for our consumption, demonstrate the tangible result of our actions. As Wiggins says, the best feedback is so tangible that anyone who has a goal can learn from it. Transparency in feedback means being clear, precise, and specific, rather than vague and opaque in your comments. Number 3, actionable. Why give feedback if it won't lead to a change in student behavior? Effective feedback is concrete, specific, and useful. It provides actionable information. Being able to utilize feedback to take more effective action in a future activity or assessment scenario is one of the prime purposes of feedback. Actionable feedback must be based on transparent, descriptive assessment standards, so it's accepted by the performer or student, or else the student may not take action. Wiggins emphasizes how good feedback is observation-based and offers neutral, goal-related facts in a clinical manner devoid of superficial judgment or bias. Writing "good job" or "wrong" on a student's assignment is not good feedback because the student does not necessarily know what was good or bad about his or her work. Actionable feedback about what went right is just as important as feedback about what didn't work. Praising in feedback can also lead to further improvement, and it's just great in general to be positive with your feedback. Number 4, user-friendly. Is this presentation comprehensible? Do you know how to implement these feedback tips in your own classroom? Specific and accurate feedback may look great, but it is not very valuable if the user cannot understand it or is overwhelmed by it. Offering feedback in a comprehensible format is key for the performer to take action on it. Here's a feedback pitfall. Highly technical feedback will seem odd and confusing to a novice. The solution? Pay attention to the depth and breadth of what you provide feedback on, as well as your word choice. Another pitfall, too much feedback being counterproductive. It's better to help the performer concentrate on only one or two key elements of performance. You cannot move on to the next stage of offering advice until the performer understands where he or she deviated from the desired results and whether or not he or she is on track, but may still have some room for improvement. Number 5, timeliness. When it comes to giving feedback, the sooner the better. Waiting hours or days to find out if your students were attentive and whether they learned has a harmful effect on classroom instruction, as teachers may move to new material despite their students not having a solid understanding of the previously covered content. Timely does not mean immediate, since you want to wait for the appropriate time to give feedback, especially when the student is most receptive to it. Untimely feedback is problematic. Imagine if you are given feedback on an assignment 3 weeks after you submitted a paper. Imagine that this feedback is actionable and relevant to future course assignments. However, since the feedback was so late, you may have made the same mistake in subsequent assignments before you even had the chance to get feedback about the initial action in need of correction. Therefore, timely feedback ensures that a student has the opportunity to learn how to adjust the first time around and apply the correct action in future assignments. Technology is a powerful tool for providing timely feedback and opportunities to use it. Peer review is another great strategy for managing the load to ensure lots of timely feedback. It's essential, however, to train students to do small group peer review to high standards without immature criticism or unhelpful praise. Number 6, ongoing. And this quote really encapsulates it. The problem is not making errors. You will all miss many balls in the field, and that's part of learning. The problem is when you don't learn from the errors. Adjusting our performance depends on not only receiving feedback, but also having opportunities to use it, as we've said. Formative assessments give students the opportunity to reshape less than optimal performances to better achieve goals. Summative assessments, however, do not generally lend themselves to the same opportunity, as the performances they assess are over and they will not get the same chance to demonstrate their mastery of a particular lesson or unit. So, the more real-time feedback you can give to students, the better their ultimate performance will be. To demonstrate timely ongoing assessment, Wiggins uses the example of a video game, such as Guitar Hero, wherein when you fail, you can immediately start over, sometimes even right where you left off, to get another opportunity to receive and learn from the feedback. He also notes that this feedback loop is user-friendly. Number 7, consistency. To be useful, feedback must be consistent. Performers can only adjust their performance successfully if the information fed back to them is stable, accurate, and trustworthy. Teachers have to be on the same page as students about what constitutes high-quality work. Teachers need to look at students' work together and formalize their judgments in highly descriptive rubrics supported by anchor products and performances. If we want student-to-student feedback to be more helpful, students have to be trained to be consistent, the same way we train teachers, using the same exemplars and rubrics. Wiggins notes that making progress towards a goal means gearing feedback to long-term goals. So scoring students' work in the fall and winter can then help them meet those spring standards through analyzing the specific areas where they need more improvement. He also notes that less teaching plus more feedback is the key to achieving greater learning. And to really emphasize this, decades of educational research support the idea that by teaching less and providing more feedback, we can produce greater learning. Thank you for watching. Here are my sources, and please contact me with any questions.